Zerath had traveled through many corners of the galaxy, but Earth was unlike anything he had ever studied. From high orbit, the planet looked ordinary: blue oceans, swirling clouds, and patches of green land, but the signals that reached his ship painted a different picture. He had expected silence or maybe organized communication like other advanced worlds. Instead, his receivers picked up a storm of noise. There were strange patterns called music, rapid voices shouting in different tongues, laughter echoing through invisible waves, and the hum of countless machines. The first time Zerath heard a human song, he tilted his head in confusion. It was not data, not coordinates, not instruction. It was something made only to stir emotion. This was the first sign that Earth would not be easy to understand. His mission was simple on paper: observe, record, and report. The Empire had been expanding for centuries, moving from star to star, absorbing weaker civilizations into its fold. Humans were not supposed to be different, yet something in those signals stirred curiosity inside him. He requested to go closer, closer than the official protocols allowed. His commander granted permission with little care, certain that this Earth would be nothing more than another entry in their records. Zerath's small scout vessel slipped into the atmosphere under cloak, but the planet did not welcome him gently. A storm brewed in the clouds, lightning flashing like blades across the sky. His stabilizers shook and alarms filled the cabin. He adjusted the controls, but the systems crackled under the pressure. Then, with a violent surge, the cloak failed. The ship spiraled, diving lower until it crashed into the outskirts of a small human settlement. The landing was rough but survivable. Zerath crawled out, his limbs aching from the impact. His tall, thin body was built for the low gravity of his homeworld, not the heavy pull of Earth. Each step felt like carrying a mountain. His breathing mask hissed quietly, helping him filter the air. He searched for shelter, knowing that exposure might reveal him too soon. At the edge of the settlement stood an old barn, its wooden frame leaning but still strong. Zerath pushed the door and slipped inside. The scent of hay, animals, and dust filled his senses. It was strange, yet oddly comforting compared to the burnt smell of his wrecked ship. He settled in a dark corner, wrapping his cloak tightly around him, waiting for night to fall. When darkness came, so did the humans. The family that owned the barn discovered him not long after sunset. A boy had entered to fetch tools and froze at the sight of Zerath's glowing eyes. Instead of running away, the boy shouted for the others. Soon, 3 more humans arrived, 2 adults and an older girl. They held lanterns, their light spilling across the barn floor. "What in the world?" the father whispered, staring at the tall, cloaked figure. Zerath braced himself. He expected screams, perhaps weapons, maybe even an attack. On other planets, his presence would have been met with fear. But the humans surprised him. The mother stepped forward first. Her eyes were wide, but her voice carried no threat. "Are you hurt?" she asked slowly, her words strange yet clear enough for Zerath's translator to catch. Zerath tilted his head, unsure how to respond. His throat made a low hum, and the translator repeated, "No harm, only tired." The boy laughed nervously. "He talks funny," he whispered to his sister. Instead of panic, the family whispered among themselves. The father scratched his beard and finally said, "Whatever he is, he looks lost. Best not leave him out in the cold." They gestured for Zerath to follow them. At first he hesitated. His mission said nothing about accepting human kindness. But the barn was drafty, his body still sore, and curiosity tugged at him. Slowly, he rose and followed the family into their home. The house was warm, filled with smells of cooked food and burning wood. The humans offered him a chair at their table. The seat was short and hard for his frame, and when he tried to sit, his knees bent at strange angles. The boy laughed again, but not cruelly. It was the laughter of amusement, not fear. They gave him food, warm bread, roasted vegetables, and something spicy that burned his mouth. Zerath coughed, his body shaking, and the family laughed once more, though this time with gentle smiles. The mother poured him water, patting his arm as though he were one of them. Zirath did not understand. On other worlds, difference had meant danger. Here, it seemed to mean curiosity, maybe even welcome. As the night went on, the humans asked questions. They wanted to know where he came from, why his clothes glowed faintly, and how he had ended up in their barn. Zirath could not answer honestly. Not yet. So he spoke in fragments, letting his translator twist his words into vague replies. He was a traveler. His journey had been long. He had lost his way. That was enough to satisfy them. What shocked him most was not their questions, but their insistence that he rest. They gave him blankets, set up a place near the fire, and told him he was safe here. The boy even dragged another chair closer to his spot, saying, "You can sit with us tomorrow too." Zirath lay awake long after the humans had gone to bed. The fire crackled softly. He replayed the day in his mind. The crash, the barn, the strange food, the laughter. None of it matched his training. None of it matched the Empire's expectations. For the first time in his life, Zirath felt something unfamiliar in his chest. It was not fear, not duty, but something softer. The humans had offered him a place even though he was clearly not one of them. He shifted on the blanket, his long legs aching from the ill-shaped chair earlier. Comfort was not easy on this world, and yet as he closed his eyes he realized that perhaps comfort was not always about the body. Sometimes it was about belonging. Outside, his damaged ship flickered faintly under the stars, hidden in the trees. The Empire would come searching soon. But for now, in this small human home, Zirath drifted into sleep, uncomfortable but strangely at peace. Morning sunlight spilled through the window, brushing against Zirath's eyes. He stirred, his long limbs tangled in the blanket the humans had given him. The fire had burned low during the night, and the house smelled faintly of smoke, bread, and earth. He sat up slowly, his joints stiff from lying on the wooden floor. His body was not meant for this gravity. Every movement felt heavy, as though the planet itself was testing his strength. From the kitchen, he heard voices. The family was already awake. The sound of their laughter mixed with the clatter of dishes. Humans were noisy creatures, he thought. On his homeworld, mornings began in silence, each being focusing only on tasks. Here, every task seemed filled with words, questions, and laughter. The mother noticed him first. She smiled warmly. "Good morning," she said, her tone light. Zirath gave a small nod. His translator caught the words and echoed, "Peace in morning." It was not quite the same, but it earned another laugh from the boy. "You sound funny when you talk," the boy said, grinning. Zirath tilted his head. "To me, you sound funny." The boy's laughter grew, and the father chuckled too. Zirath was surprised. He had spoken with honesty, not humor, yet the humans treated it as a joke. Still, their laughter did not sting. It felt soft. After breakfast, the father explained that they were going to a community dinner that evening. "Everyone from the town will be there," he said. "Food, music, stories. You should come along. People will want to meet you." Zirath stiffened. Meeting more humans meant more eyes, more questions. His mission had told him to observe quietly, unseen. But the family's kindness was difficult to refuse. When the girl insisted, "You'll like it," he finally gave a slow nod. The day passed with simple tasks. Zirath helped the father carry wood, though the weight pressed heavily on his arms. He repaired a broken fence with tools that felt crude compared to his own technology, but strangely satisfying to use. The boy followed him around, asking endless questions. Did he come from far away? Did he have friends? What did his world look like? Zirath gave vague answers, careful not to reveal too much. By evening, the family dressed in simple yet neat clothes. They gestured for Zirath to do the same, though all he had was his travel cloak. The girl pinned a small flower to it, saying, "Now you look ready." Zirath glanced at the flower, puzzled by the gesture, but said nothing. The walk to the town, Center was short. As they approached, Zerath saw light strung across poles glowing warmly. Long tables had been set up covered with food. People gathered in groups, talking, laughing, sharing stories. The noise was overwhelming to his sensitive ears. He wanted to retreat, but the boy tugged at his arm. "Come on, don't be shy." Humans noticed him quickly. Their eyes widened, their voices hushed for a moment. Zerath tensed, expecting rejection. But then, the silence broke into curious murmurs. Who is he? Look at those eyes. Must be from far away. Instead of fear, they offered smiles. One man clapped him on the shoulder, nearly knocking him forward. "Welcome, friend. You must be hungry. Come, sit." Again came the chair. Humans loved chairs. Zerath eyed the wooden seat with suspicion. He lowered himself slowly, his long legs folding awkwardly, his knees rising high, the table pressed against his chest. The boy laughed, and this time even Zerath let out a quiet sound that almost resembled amusement. Food was passed around. Bread, roasted meats, vegetables, fruits, and drinks. Zerath sampled carefully. Some foods were mild, others sharp, and then came the spicy dish. At first bite, his mouth burned like fire. His throat tightened, his eyes watered. He coughed violently, slamming his hand on the table. The humans roared with laughter. The mother quickly offered him water, and another woman patted his back. "First time trying spice, eh?" someone called. "You'll get used to it." Zerath's body shook, but he forced himself to swallow. He could not show weakness. Not here. "Hot, but strong," he managed to say. The crowd cheered. Someone clapped loudly. They admired his attempt, rather than mocked his failure. Zerath felt the strangeness of it again. They turned his discomfort into celebration. As the evening grew, music began. Humans produced instruments, strings, drums, and pipes. The sounds filled the air, rising and falling in patterns Zerath could not understand. Yet the people clapped their hands, stomped their feet, and some began to dance. The boy tried to pull Zerath into the circle. "Dance with us," he shouted. Zerath shook his head quickly. His body was not made for such movements. But the boy insisted, and soon others joined, tugging him gently until he stood in the circle. The rhythm thumped through the ground. Humans moved with freedom, their steps uncoordinated yet full of joy. Zerath tried to mimic them, but his stiff limbs jerked awkwardly. The crowd laughed again, but the sound was warm, not cruel. They welcomed his clumsy effort as though it were part of the dance itself. For the first time, Zerath realized laughter could unite rather than divide. Later, as the celebration slowed, people told stories. An old man spoke of storms, another woman of harvests, the children of small adventures in the fields. They invited Zerath to share something too. He hesitated. He could not reveal his mission, his empire, or the truth of the stars. So he told them a simple tale, a memory of light storms on his homeworld, where the skies shimmered with color and the ground glowed underfoot. His translator shaped his words into poetry without meaning to. The humans listened quietly. When he finished, they applauded. "Beautiful," someone said. "Tell us more tomorrow." Zerath felt heat in his chest. He had given them only a fragment, yet they treated it as treasure. By the time the family walked him back home, the stars were bright above. The boy chattered about the food and music, the girl hummed a tune, and the parents walked peacefully together. Zerath followed silently, his mind full. Back in the house, the boy grinned at him. "See, told you it'd be fun." Zerath nodded slowly. His body was tired, his legs still sore from the ill-shaped chair, his mouth burning faintly from the spice. But inside he felt something stronger than discomfort, a strange pull toward these people who treated him not as a stranger, but as one of them. When the family went to sleep, Zerath remained awake by the fire. He thought of his empire, where difference was met with control. He thought of these humans who laughed at his clumsy steps, cheered his small efforts, and invited him to their table without hesitation. He shifted on the chair, grimacing at the awkward angle. His body was far from comfortable, yet his thoughts whispered something new. Perhaps comfort was not only about the body, perhaps it was about belonging. As the firelight flickered, Zerath wondered what his empire would think if they saw this night, and more importantly, he wondered what he himself was beginning to become. The night after the community dinner was long and restless for Zerath. He lay near the fire in the human's small house, staring at the ceiling beams. The chair from the evening had left his joints aching. The spice still burned faintly in his chest, and his mind spun in ways it had never done before. On other planets, when he had revealed himself by accident, there had always been fear. Eyes widened, voices shouted, weapons raised. Difference meant danger. But here, on Earth, the humans had not feared him. They had fed him. They had laughed with him. They had asked for his stories. It did not make sense. By morning, he found himself outside, sitting near his broken ship hidden in the woods. He had returned here in silence, careful not to wake the family. The vessel was badly damaged from the crash, and the Empire's recall beacon still pulsed faintly. Soon, someone from his fleet would notice and come for him. That thought usually brought him comfort. Now it stirred unease. Zerath tapped the side of the ship and activated a small recorder. Flickers of light danced before his eyes as he replayed the memory captures from the dinner. Human faces, smiling, laughing, clapping, sharing food. He watched them again and again. Why? He whispered to himself. His translator repeated softly, Reason? The Empire had always taught that strength came from order, from control, from technology. They were a people who measured value in efficiency and obedience. Joy had little purpose. Laughter was noise. Kindness was weakness. And yet, the humans had turned weakness into strength. They had laughed at his clumsy movements, but not to harm him. They had laughed to include him. They had shared food he could hardly eat but celebrated when he tried. Even when he failed, they treated the failure as victory. This, he realized, was something his empire had forgotten long ago. Later that day, the boy found him near the ship. You like to sit out here a lot, the boy said cheerfully. Zerath gave a slow nod, much to think. The boy tilted his head. Are you going to leave soon? Zerath hesitated. His first instinct was to say yes. That was his mission. Record, report, return. But the word stuck in his throat. Not sure, he admitted. The boy shrugged. That's fine. You can stay longer. People like you. People like you. The words echoed in Zerath's mind as the boy skipped away. On his homeworld, nobody had ever said such words to him. In the Empire, individuals were tools, valued for their usefulness, not for who they were. He turned back to his ship and whispered, People like me. That night, he sat in the barn alone. He pulled one of the human chairs into the corner and lowered himself onto it. As always, his body protested. His knees bent too tightly, his back curved uncomfortably, his weight pressed awkwardly, yet he stayed seated. He wanted to understand. Why did humans insist on chairs at every table, every gathering? To them, chairs were not only for comfort, they were symbols of belonging. To be given a seat meant to be included. That was the truth he had missed. He remembered the boy's words. You can sit with us tomorrow too. It was not about the wood or the shape of the seat. It was about the place at the table. Humans made space for one another. Even for him, a stranger, a being they did not understand. Slowly, realization dawned on him. This was their strength. This was why the Empire should be cautious. Humans did not conquer by force or by fear, they conquered by invitation. They pulled others into their circle, gave them a chair, shared food, and laughed until strangers felt like family. That kind of strength could not be measured in weapons or ships. It was deeper, harder to break. The next day, Zerath walked with the family to the fields. The father showed him how humans worked together to prepare the land, how neighbors helped each other without asking for payment. Zerath watched as one man lifted heavy sacks while another guided tools, as children ran to fetch water without being told. "Why do you do this for each other?" Zerath asked quietly. The father looked at him strangely. "Because we're a community. Everyone helps. When one struggles, the rest support. That's how we all survive." Zerath fell silent. In his empire, survival was individual. Those who failed were left behind. Here, survival was shared. That evening, as they returned home, Zerath felt a heaviness in his chest. Not the weight of Earth's gravity, but something else. A realization that grew with every moment. If the Empire came here, if they tried to break this planet, they would not just face resistance, they would face unity. That night, alone by the fire, Zerath activated a secret channel to his fleet. A faint voice crackled through. "His commanders." "Report," the voice demanded. Zerath paused. His eyes flicked toward the room where the humans slept peacefully. He remembered the warmth of the dinner, the laughter during the dance, the kindness of the mother's hand offering water. He could not bring himself to speak the full truth. "Planet primitive," he said carefully. "No threat. Still. Observing." The commander grunted. "Continue. Do not delay too long." The channel cut. Zerath sat in silence, his heart beating fast. He had lied to his empire for the first time. Later, he returned to the barn with his recorder. He watched once more the memory of humans pulling him to dance, their clumsy steps matching his own, their joy unbroken. He studied the moment when the old man applauded his story of the glowing skies. He studied the boy's grin, the girl's flower pinned to his cloak, the mother's patient kindness, and he whispered, "This is power." The translator hummed softly, "This is strength." He leaned back in the chair, wincing as usual. His body ached, his joints screamed. Yet he stayed seated, because now he understood. It was not about comfort of the body. It was about comfort of the spirit. The humans had given him that, without asking anything in return. And for the first time in his long service to the Empire, Zerath felt truly afraid. Not of the humans, but of what his own people might do if they discovered what he had found. Because if they tried to conquer Earth, they would face something greater than armies. They would face humanity itself. Zerath knew the Empire would not wait forever. The faint signal from his damaged ship pulsed through the sky like a heartbeat, calling to those who searched for him. For days he had ignored it, telling himself he needed more time. But on the 7th night the reply came. His communicator buzzed faintly. A hollow voice filled the barn where he sat alone. "Scout Zerath." The commander's tone was sharp, cold, as all officers' voices were. "We have received your signal. Prepare coordinates for fleet arrival. The planet will be assessed for conquest." The words struck him like a blade. His hand trembled slightly as he held the device. He looked toward the small house nearby, its windows glowing softly in the dark. Inside, the family laughed over supper, unaware that far above, ships waited to descend. "Yes, Commander," Zerath answered slowly. His throat felt tight. "But preparation requires time. Planet is unstable." There was a pause, then a low growl of impatience. "You are a scout, not a farmer. Your task is to observe and report. Send coordinates. The Empire decides stability, not you." Zerath lowered the communicator, muting the channel. He sat in silence, heart pounding. He had lied once before. Now he would have to lie again. And each lie pulled him further from the world he once belonged to. The next day, he tried to act as if nothing had changed. He helped the father repair a wagon, carried buckets of water with the boy, and listened to the girl sing as she worked in the garden. The humans spoke of ordinary things, harvests, neighbors, weather. To them, the universe ended at the horizon of their town. But for Zerath, the universe was closing in fast. The Empire would not delay. When they came, they would see Earth not as a home, but as a resource. That evening, While the family gathered for another meal, Zerath excused himself. He slipped back to the barn and scratched strange symbols into the wooden wall using a shard from his ship. His people would not recognize these marks, but he hoped humans might. They were fragments of language, patterns he shaped carefully, a mix of pictures and code. He left them where someone clever might one day find them. It was not much, but it was a start. The boy found him later, standing in the barn. "You've been quiet today," the boy said, frowning. Zerath studied him for a long moment. "Danger comes," he said softly. The boy tilted his head. "What do you mean?" Zerath hesitated. He could not reveal everything, not yet. Instead, he bent low and touched the boy's shoulder. "Be strong. Humans. Strong together." The boy did not understand, but he nodded anyway, smiling faintly. "Of course we are." That night the communicator buzzed again. This time the voice was harder. "Zerath. Delay is unacceptable. The fleet arrives in 3 cycles. Be prepared." Zerath's body went cold. 3 cycles. That was all the time he had. When the channel cut, he pressed his hands against his face. What was he to do? If he disobeyed, the Empire would punish him. If he obeyed, the humans would be destroyed. The thought of their laughter silenced, their tables empty, their fields burned. It filled him with dread. For the first time in his long service, Zerath felt powerless. The following day, the town gathered again. This time it was for work, not celebration. Fields needed tending. Repairs had to be made after a storm. Zerath watched as dozens of humans worked side by side, sharing tools, lifting loads too heavy for one person alone. He joined them, though. His limbs ached. When one man stumbled under the weight of a sack, 3 others rushed to help. When a child dropped a bucket, a woman laughed, handed it back, and ruffled the child's hair. Everywhere Zerath looked, he saw cooperation. Not because they were ordered to, but because they chose to. It struck him again. This was their true strength. They did not conquer by command. They conquered by standing together. That evening, when the work was done, the humans shared food once, or they sat in a circle under the stars, passing bread, telling stories, singing softly. Zerath sat among them, the awkward chair again pressing against his legs. His body complained, but his heart felt strangely steady. He knew then what he must do. Late that night, he returned to his ship. He pulled out a small device, a beacon meant to guide the fleet. Its light pulsed softly in his hand. If he activated it fully, the Empire would arrive in moments. If he destroyed it, he would be a traitor forever. He stared at it for a long time. The Empire had given him everything: training, purpose, survival. But the humans had given him something greater: a seat at their table, a laugh shared, a sense of belonging. His hand tightened around the beacon. With a single motion, he crushed it. Sparks burst. Light faded and the signal died. His chest ached, but his spirit felt lighter. He had chosen. The next morning, he walked into the house. The family greeted him as always, smiling, offering food. The boy chattered about the day ahead. The girl teased him about the flower still pinned to his cloak, and the parents spoke of work. They did not know what he had done. They did not know the danger that still hung in the sky. But they welcomed him without question. For now, that was enough. But deep inside, Zerath knew the trial was not over. The Empire would notice his silence. They would come searching with or without his beacon. And when they did, Earth would stand in their path. He looked at the humans, at their simple home, their laughter, their unshakable togetherness. And for the first time, he believed that maybe, just maybe, they could endure. Because humans were not strong because of weapons. They were strong because they never gave up on each other. And perhaps, with his help, they would be ready for the storm to come. The morning was quiet, too quiet for Zerath's liking. He stood in the fields beside the father, watching the horizon. Birds sang in the distance, children laughed, and the smell of fresh bread drifted from the house. To the humans, it was an ordinary day. To Zerath, it felt like the last calm before a storm. He had destroyed the beacon, but he knew his empire well. They were relentless. Silence would only draw suspicion, and suspicion would bring ships. That night, as the family slept, Zerath climbed the hill above the town. He gazed at the stars, his eyes sharper than human sight. Among the constellations, he saw faint glimmers moving unnaturally. The fleet was already near. "They come," he whispered. The translator repeated softly, "Arrival soon." His chest grew heavy. He thought of the family, of the laughter in the barn, of the awkward chair at the dinner table, of the boys' wide eyes when he said, "Humans are strong together." He could not let that be taken away. 2 nights later, the sky split with light. At first, the humans thought it was a storm, but storms did not burn across the heavens in perfect formation. 6 vast ships descended, their hulls shining like blades, their engines roaring. The ground trembled as shadows fell over the town. People screamed, pointing to the sky. Fear swept through the streets. The humans had never seen such machines. Zerath stood among them, cloak whipping in the wind. He knew the fleet's patterns, their weapons, their plans. His communicator crackled again. "Scout Zerath," the commander's voice thundered. "Your silence was noted. Explain. You will join us now and deliver the planet." Zerath raised the device slowly. His voice was firm. "No, this world belongs to itself." There was a pause, then cold laughter. "You betray the Empire? For primitives who burn food and stumble in dance? You disappoint us, Zerath." The communicator went silent. The ships shifted above, preparing. Humans looked to Zerath with wide, fearful eyes. The father stepped forward. "What's happening? Who are they?" Zerath took a deep breath. "They are my people, but not my home. They come to take. You must be ready." The humans exchanged nervous glances. They had no war machines, no weapons to match the fleet. What could farmers, children, and storytellers do against ships that could level cities? But Zerath remembered what he had seen. Their unity, their creativity, their stubborn refusal to abandon each other. That was their weapon. He raised his hand. "Listen, you are strong, not alone. Stand together. Protect each other. That is how you win." The boy stepped beside him, fists clenched. "We won't let them take our home." The invasion began with light. Beams shot down, shaking the earth, burning craters in the fields. But the humans did not scatter. They pulled water to put out fires, carried the wounded, and shielded children. They moved as one, shouting, helping, holding on. Zerath rushed to the barn, where his broken ship still lay. He pulled out fragments of technology, pieces barely working. With the boy's eager hands helping, they twisted wires, hammered panels, and shaped crude defenses. His empire would laugh at such primitive effort. Yet here, among humans, it became hope. When the next beam fell, the humans had already dug trenches, hidden supplies, and built barriers. They were not warriors, but they were survivors. The fleet's commander grew impatient. His voice echoed again in Zerath's communicator. "This is pointless. Step aside. Watch them fall." Zerath raised the device high so all could hear. His voice shook but grew stronger with each word. "You do not understand them. They do not fall, they rise." The humans cheered, their fear turning to fire. The battle raged through the night. The Empire's ships rained destruction, but the humans fought back in ways no machine could predict. They set traps in the forests, used mirrors to blind sensors, banged metal to confuse trackers. Every time the Empire thought they had control, humans surprised them with new tricks. Zerath guided them, using his knowledge of enemy patterns. He shouted warnings, marked safe paths, and turned scraps of his ship into shields and signals. Though his body ached, though every chair he sat on left him sore, he stood tall beside them. At dawn, smoke covered the fields. The humans were bruised and exhausted, but they still stood. The Empire's ships, slowed and confused, circled uncertainly. For the first time in centuries, Zerath realized, his people had met resistance they did not expect. The commander's voice returned, sharp with frustration. Zerath, this is your last chance. Obey, and we spare you. Zerath looked at the humans around him, the family, the neighbors, the children clutching their parents. His answer came easily. I already chose. He smashed the communicator against the ground. Sparks flew, and silence followed. The fleet shifted, preparing to unleash full force. The humans braced for the worst, but then something happened that no one expected. One by one, the Empire's ships began to retreat, not because they were defeated in battle, but because they were defeated in spirit. To crush a planet was easy. To crush a people who refused. To bow was harder. And to see one of their own, Zerath, stand against them was worse than any weapon. The commander's voice never returned. The ships pulled back into the sky, vanishing among the stars. The humans erupted in cries of relief. Some fell to the ground in tears, others hugged each other, laughing through exhaustion. The boy threw his arms around Zerath's waist. We did it. We made them leave. Zerath placed a hand gently on the boy's shoulder. His body was sore, his knees aching from nights of human chairs, but his heart felt lighter than ever. No, he said softly. You did it. Humans never give up. The father stepped forward, his eyes shining. You fought with us. That makes you one of us. The mother smiled warmly. There's always a place at our table for you. Zerath's throat tightened. A place at the table. That was what it meant to belong. That evening, when the town gathered again, the tables were set once more. Food was shared, stories told, laughter echoing under the stars. Zerath sat in his usual awkward chair, his long legs bent uncomfortably. The boy leaned over, grinning. You still don't sit right? Zerath let out a low, amused sound. I still can't sit comfortably after last night or any night. He looked around at the smiling faces, the warm fire. The food passed from hand to hand. But I finally understand why you asked me to sit. The humans laughed with him, their joy filling the air. For the first time in his long life, Zerath felt not like an observer, not like a scout, but like a part of something greater. And above them, the stars shone bright, as if bearing witness to the simple truth he had learned. Humans were not special because they were the strongest. They were special because they always made room for one more chair at the table.